3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the M365 Government of Canada Council meeting. So happy to have all of you back. I know there's an informal rule that you're not supposed to say Happy New Year after January 15th, but we haven't seen you in 2022, so I'm going to say Happy New Year. I hope everyone had a great holiday season, took some time to relax, enjoy with the family, and I know we're all back at it here at the end of January already. So happy to be back for another year of M365 Council meetings. We already have a few months lined up. Really excited about ESDC presenting for us today. Next slide. Just next slide. Awesome. So for those of you who don't know me, if you haven't been on the council meeting before, or it's been a little bit, my name is Silvana Gatto. I'm the sales director here at Orangutech. If you've been joining, if you've been on this wild ride with us for the last 4 years, you'll know that Orangutech has been hosting this M365 council meeting for 4 years, heading into our 5th season this calendar year. We spend our day living and breathing M365, the journeys that all of you guys have been on with your departments, and that's been such an exciting experience pre-pandemic and during the pandemic. And I feel like now today's presentation is starting to talk a little bit about what that hybrid is going to look like as well. Microsoft Gold partner and Harmonie partner as well. We're going to learn more about Harmonie today. Next slide, Alex. Like I said, if you've been here for a while, you'll know how the evolution of these council meetings have gone. When we started back in June of 2018, M365 was it was still called O365 back then. So it was just on the horizon. It was coming. People were starting to talk about how they were going to be implementing M365 into their departments. The meetings were smaller here, but they were beginning to grow. And we were talking about what was roadmaps looking like? What were the plans looking like for this big evolution, this big change in the digital workspace? And we had departments coming in talking about what that looked like. And as the months went on, eventually we had people talking about their department's implementation plans. We had departments talking about successes, challenges, lessons learned. We had people going into specifics like security and change management. We've kind of had a glimpse of this M365 from so many different perspectives, which has been so fun. And I feel like we can add a new box on here eventually, which is showing hybrid. Like, what is this looking like in this new world that we're in, where maybe some of our employees are going to be working in an office setting and some of our employees are going to be continuously working in a at-home remote capacity. So excited to see what this year brings for the future of the council meeting. Next slide. All right, so as you all know, you logged into the Team Live event. You have the ability to submit your questions through the question box on the side. So feel free to do that throughout the presentation as things come up. Get your questions in there. Me and my team are going to be monitoring them, posting them, and we'll be asking the ESDC team at the end of the presentation. Just identify yourself. It makes it so much easier. If you go in anonymous, we may or may not ask the question. So just get your name in there. That would be awesome. You also have the ability to vote for questions. So if there's a question that someone else asks that you had on the tip of your tongue, vote for it. And typically the questions that have the most votes are the ones that I will typically ask at the beginning. And we will leave about 15-20 minutes at the end to make it through as many questions as we can. I will be leaving for a while. I'll jump back in at the end and ask the questions, and between the 3 ESDC presenters. We'll get through as many as we can. Our next GoC Council meeting is already scheduled for February, so we're actually going to be doing an M365 architecture discussion with Daniel Sincarche, CTO of Orangutech, on Thursday, February 24th. So get that in your calendars. We'll get invites out in the upcoming week or so. And we also have SSC presenting at the end of March, all on change management, M365 change management, and we're excited for that as well. So stay tuned. Next slide. So today, as always, we have a fantastic presentation lined up. I've had a chance to go through the slides, and I think it's going to be a great one. We have Alex Singh, Chris McDonald, and Angela Foran from ESDC presenting on Microsoft Modern Workplace tools to enable hybrid work. They're going to be talking about Harmony specifically, and email when it comes to, or when it comes to information management, we're talking email, which is an exciting topic. I feel like the buzzword recently has been information management, and there's so many different aspects to it. So it's going to be fun to dive into how email management fits into this whole IM puzzle. Perfect. Next slide. So I will hand things over to you, Alex. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to turn my camera off, and I'll jump back in at the end of the presentation for questions. Over to you.
Thank you very much. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Just to let you know, vous pouvez poser les questions dans la langue de votre choix. Toute mon équipe ici, on est bilingue. Fait avec moi aujourd'hui, I have also Angela Foran, who's our engagement and change management lead with respect to the this specific Harmony deployment, and also Chris McDonald, who's our technical and IM specialist, who was in the weeds of setting this up. We're here today to talk to you a little bit also about how we got to deciding to go with Harmony as a solution. So I'm going to explain a little bit of the story behind us deciding to address email and information management. We'll go into a little bit of the benefits we saw. We also have our change management approach, which Angela will go over. And we have for you a demo, a recorded video that we've prepared and have been using internally to help kind of advocate the use of it at ESDC. So why were we changing? I think like everybody else, and I think for the last 2 years, we've all been saying this, like we live in a new reality. COVID hit. And in the case of ESDC, we weren't a department that was very strong in the remote work area, because if you think about it, a lot of our work is citizen facing. You know, we have large programs like employment insurance, Canadian pension plan, old age security. All these services from our sort of Canada centers had all these people in the front lines. So COVID hit, we had to evolve the way we were working with employees. We went to M365 or Office 365 as a technology to allow all these employees that were now having to work from home to collaborate, communicate, the use of Teams, video conferencing, all of that. And that enabled us to look at how we would mature our IM practice and taking, you know, as people say, never let a good crisis go to waste. And in that picture, we decided to, let me rephrase that. In that context, our executives, and specifically our DM, saw the need to really bottle up this innovation that happened with COVID hitting. And we've used the expression not to let the elastic snap back to the old way of doing things. And we, with her guidance, established a task force that we wanted to address these kinds of challenges. So trying to bottle up that momentum of change and repeat it on multiple initiatives. So important there, we realize that obviously People and culture, very big part of this. We have to be good at bringing our staff along through this change. It was, I'll say, more significant in certain areas of our organizations than others. The other thing is we noticed by, of course, working from home, a lot of paper processes or the way we used to do things just doesn't work in a remote work environment when people are not in the office. Again, information management, we saw that if we started to embed proper information management from the get-go as part of the re-engineering of these processes, we would kind of make IM transparent or at least seamless to the users and not make it an afterthought that we need to apply on our processes. We also focused solely on internal services. This was a conscious decision for our department and our executives. For those who know ESDC a bit, there is a large transformation initiative to for all our citizen-facing programs. It's called the Benefits Delivery Modernization. And we wanted to make sure that we weren't overlapping and stepping in on each other's toes. So our expertise was focused on HR processes, finance, security, those kinds of internal processes. So how did we come about to land on email and Harmony? We did a lot of engagement at different levels of the organization to figure out what processes in this post-COVID world were really causing a lot of grief. Engaged, as most departments, some have a youth group, so ours is called Why Imagine. We engage with them, our managers, community, admins, and executives came up with a list of 37, did some ranking, some internal review, and we brought it down to a top 5 that we felt were achievable in a short amount of time, government speak, about a year, and to deliver on some tangible benefits to all employees. So what we landed up on the top 5, and I'm just going to go through these quickly, but next part we'll focus on the email one, is security clearance. So for those of you who are aware, it's a very paper-based process. It's that new employee that's joining and needs to get their security clearance done. You're working from home, you don't necessarily have a printer, you don't necessarily have a scanner, so that's definitely one that we felt needed to be addressed. Email and information management. So probably a lot of departments face the same situation. VPNs were not necessarily as robust or as resilient as people had hoped. So we had a population of about 30,000 employees that all of a sudden needed to be on the VPN to access their work. So email and sending attachments became almost the norm. And we started to see a huge influx of more attachment being sent. So wanted to see, well, how do we help with that? Onboarding, I think like most departments, it's a challenge when we were in the office. Now people are working from home. How do you ship equipment? How do you hire a cohort of 50 employees? Pretty big challenge there. The other aspect internally was what we call our staffing documentation. Really relates to, if you remember, you had an admin that had a drawer with a lock on it that had your CV, your diploma, your language score, and every time you needed to do some sort of HR paperwork, you could just get a copy of it and pass it along. Well, now that we're not in the office, how do we manage that? So wanted to find a way of addressing that. And lastly, is digital signatures. We moved quickly to digital signatures. We were using Adobe and Interest, but it raised a whole bunch of challenges and opportunities to improve the way we use digital signatures and really look at, do we really need to sign all these things electronically that we used to sign with a pen and paper? So I'll go now into more of the topic of today, which is around the email management. So a little context here for any of the other departments here, other public servants. ESDC did not have GC docs. We did not have really an EDRMS. We had pockets of SharePoint 2010 and relied a lot on network drives. So unlike some departments who may have had GC Docs and Enterprise Connect, we were starting a little further back than other departments. So we leveraged the pandemic to really look at the opportunity of how do we store emails and attachments, putting them in a central location, such as now that we had SharePoint Online, Teams, and OneDrive. The other thing was making information easy to share. So because we were using network drives, not many pockets of SharePoint, people weren't really sending links, right? So you had a lot of attachments being sent just when we were in the office, and now even more because people didn't have necessarily easy access to their network drives. And of course, the opportunity of managing our mailbox size. I think as most departments, you know, even though there's, I'll say, some relaxation on the 2 gig limit that had been imposed by TBS, there still is the infrastructure that needs to be able to support that. The pain points we really wanted to address were the steps that were involved in managing attachments in Outlook and bringing them into your repository or being able to send links. It was a lot of clicks, which discouraged people from the practice. The other aspect that, of course, by not sending links is we have multiple versions of files. So you have people working and collaborating on a document, and of course, one makes a change, another one makes a change in their own copy, and then they send it back, and someone's got to spend all this time consolidating the effort. So a lot of administrative work that was done because of not sharing links, which created multiple copies. So the benefits we were seeing from attacking this one was really removing Outlook as an information silo. So for an information management perspective, your mailbox is only you that has access to it, maybe your admin, but you may have information that's of business value in there that other team members could leverage, but it's in your mailbox and they don't have access to it. The other point was intuitive, so and making it really easy to use the repository within Outlook and making this an uncomplicated approach for employees. Also, from a co-authoring with M365, you know, now that you're sending links, you've got a larger assurance or level of assurance that you are collaborating on the latest and greatest version of the document, and you get to see other people's changes as you're working on them. And as well, the decrease in volume of email attachments. So that has the indirect consequence, or direct consequence, I should say, to reducing the mailbox size, which alleviated some of the stress on our servers and our infrastructures. Our approach for rolling this out and where we are in the next few slides after this, I have one more slide, but then Angela will get into more of our pilot. But really, we decided that as a department, we are quite large. I think the last count of employees was almost in the 35,000 employees Canada-wide. It wasn't something that we could just roll out and push it to everyone in one shot. So we're very keen about making sure that we had proper change management practice and that we really needed to evolve but make sure that whatever approach we took to roll this out was scalable. So we're starting a pilot. Angela will get into a little more details about that, but the end goal is to use that information so that we do release it out to all the employees. And by releasing it out, we're hoping that this will increase our IM maturity in these different departments or different branches. This slide here is what we kind of used to our advantage with the executives to kind of explain and put out the benefits in a different, more tangible perspective. So you see the top stream is our current process. We did a quick mapping of, okay, well, what does it mean when I get an email that's got an attachment, the steps I need to do to save it, put it on my drive, put it back then in the corporate repository, then later on adding a link, going to find it, making sure I have the right link, editing permissions, all that kind of stuff to send an email. And when you use a tool like Harmony, the process at the bottom, you know, a lot more streamlined, a lot less steps. And we went with a conservative estimation. So going with about a 15 minutes saving a day for an employee, basing it on only a third of our population, you can see the kind of benefits we were saying, like 333 person year that we would be able to refocus and gain these efficiencies so that the employees are actually spending that time on work that is supporting Canadians and supporting our mandate as a department. From here, I'll turn it over to Angela to talk more about the pilot and our lessons learned and our change management. Over to you, Angela.
All right, thanks, Alex. So yeah, we decided early in the fall that it would be a really good idea to do a pilot light before the full pilot, so that we could really test our messaging, our training, our end user support without putting the pilot participants necessarily through the rigor and the bumpy ride that we would have taken them on. We learned a lot, and I'm really glad we did it. We did it with a small group within one of our branches. It lasted a month, where we were really targeting this group with engagement, communications, coaching sessions, etc. And we learned some important things here. We learned that those who were managers on the team were very much receptive to Harmony, myself included, and we're using it every day and multiple times a day. For myself, I live in my Outlook, and now I really can say that I live in it because I have Harmony and I don't have to leave it. It's fantastic. But the non-managers on the team were a little less receptive because they didn't necessarily see the value of Harmony for them because they don't live in email. So it really helped us frame our story that we were going to go out with as we roll out for our pilot, and change some of our engagement and communication and even the training opportunities. So it was a fantastic idea to do the pilot light. We have launched our full pilot. We did our first group. We have 3 pilot groups. We did our first group for the kickoff on January 10th, and we're going to be starting with the training in the coming weeks. So some of the feedback we got, that people liked the drag and drop, being able to, for me personally, it's using the recent section, the recent tab. I go in there all the time. I have it set up, and just the ease of use. It's very intuitive, and being able to see your SharePoint online right there on your side panel. So based on all the feedback that we got, we amended our communications. We have looked at how we're marketing and selling Harmony for executives as well as regular employees, and also exploring that the roles and responsibilities of what we were expecting the participants, the pilot participants, to provide for us, so that when we do a full rollout across ESDC, that is very clear that what those expectations are. We looked at our training and our end user support as well, in terms of coming and attending support sessions so that we could hear directly what their feedback is all about and incorporate some of their messages into future communications. Next slide, please. So this is our training model. So it's based on, I guess, a 4-pronged approach, where we have 3 1.5-hour training sessions where it's live, and we walk through various modules of Harmony so that people get a clear understanding and have the opportunity to ask questions. We have learning scenarios, which from the pilot light, were a great success because we were able to, those employees who didn't necessarily see Harmony working for them, we were able to say, can you walk through this scenario here? And that way you'll be able to see the benefit of what Harmony can offer for you. So based on that feedback from them, we have further incorporated that into our pilot as well as support sessions. You always have to have that, so you have that one-on-one coaching, as well as the user guide, right? So it's there, someone needs to check things out, they can go to it quickly and easily. So this is the training model that we're putting forward for our pilot. Next slide. This is our communication support and feedback. So you can see we've leveraged Teams as well as the Harmony logo, and we're using our Teams to create a buzz, as well as providing our communications, as well as our feedback and support. So this was also something that we learned from the pilot Lite, that by having people go into a Teams channel, feedback and support, people can type in, hey, this is working really great for me. Has anyone else tried this? Or I'm having some issues with being able to give permissions to somebody. Can somebody help me out with this? Is it just me? So we really noticed a great sense of collaboration and community through this method of support. So we are going to leverage this same support model for our pilot, and we'll look into how we're going to support as we do future rollouts of Harmony across the department. Next slide. So this is the overview of our rollout and change management plan. You can see it's a 4-week intensive period. We have, like I said, we had three pilot groups, each 4 weeks, where we're with them. We're holding their hand, we're training them, we're communicating with them, we are providing support sessions, they have the support channel, we are there with them through this journey of using Harmony so that we can understand their journey and be able to ensure that we then match our change management for our departmental rollout. So we are looking at this between January now and March 31st. We're looking at a group of roughly 130 people or so. Once we get the final benefits survey done, we get all that feedback, we're then going to analyze it and look at, through April to June, how are we going to roll this out? And I've got to be honest, already through presentations at senior executive committees, the buzz is there, the demand is there. And for those of you online who may be in the IM profession, and like me, I've been in it for 22 years, you don't often have to sort of say, no, just wait, I'll get to you, and hold people off, because it's usually the opposite. So this is fantastic. Next slide, please.
I'll take it over from here. Thank you, Angela. So again, to echo what Angela was saying is having people wanting it and wanting to improve their IM by seeing this tool has been a great feeling for us to be able to do this. The demo we're going to share with you right now is a recording that Chris did. Just to give you a little context, this was presented to our, it's called our EXCOM. It's the ADMs of all the Service Canada portion of ESDC, as well as our Chief Operating Officer. And the context here was to really get them to understand the value of this tool. So it's a scenario-based that is directed towards more of an executive crowd, but we wanted to make sure that they could see themselves in this demo. So I believe, Eric, you've taken over the screen and you're about to launch the video. So I'll let you take over and get the video going.
Thanks, Alex. Yes, that is, I've taken over here, and I am going to share the video. I do believe the audio should come through. So here we are.
Hi, and thank you for having us for this Harmony demo. For those of you who may not be familiar with the tool, Harmony is an Outlook sidebar which not only provides full access to Teams, SharePoint, and OneDrive, but also connects seamlessly with Office 365 to provide a simple and efficient way to work together across the department, all from within your Outlook window. To showcase how Harmony can simplify your day-to-day work, we'll go through a scenario where Bisbee is seeking input from their regional Service Canada counterparts on an updated procedure for Service Canada employees, in our case related to old age security. We know this will involve requesting input from stakeholders across the department, as well as communicating the final change to Service Canada managers. Before diving into how Harmony can assist in this scenario, let's consider how we would most likely accomplish this today without Harmony. First off, this may involve sending attachments rather than links to gather input. Those attachments might be further passed on, or teams may be saving a copy in their own space to work on, both of which is creating additional copies. All of this leads to multiple versions of documents being stored in places we may not even realize, which not only slows our ability to accomplish our work and creates uncertainty around which file is the correct version, but can also add significant complexity when fulfilling ATIP requests. With that in mind, let's take a look at how Harmony can simplify this entire process, all from the convenience of your Outlook window. So to begin, we've been tasked to coordinate this input, so we may want to create a new procedural document, in our case, a new briefing note, or even a folder to track this request. Well, Harmony can help us do that directly from our Outlook window. We'll start by opening the Harmony sidebar, which has been added to my Outlook. As you can see here, Harmony gives me direct access to SharePoint, Teams, and OneDrive. I've taken the liberty to create a folder for this demo request, but this can be done simply by navigating to the SharePoint Online site or team your group is using and clicking the Add New Content. And here I can create a briefing note or a new Word document, and here I've created my folder as well. So we've created a space to track this request in SharePoint Online and the document to send out directly from Harmony. Before we share out our request, we may want to include an email or even attachment as additional information in our request. Well, here we have an email from a partner organization, which includes some information directly within the email, as well as a deck highlighting some lessons learned from a similar initiative. Harmony allows you to save your documents into your workspace simply by dragging and dropping either the attachment, and I'm just dragging into our workspace, or I can drag and drop the entire email, including the attachment, into the sidebar. And again, I'm just selecting my email and dragging it into the sidebar. Remove this for our demo. Now the email and attachment are available to my team. If I or anyone else open the email, you can see we still have the full functionality of an Outlook email, including forward and reply, but our email and attachment are actually stored in SharePoint Online. You may have noticed when I drag and drop the email into the Harmony sidebar, it is removed from my inbox. This is to avoid duplication and to ensure information of value is saved in its appropriate location outside of Outlook. So now we have our briefing note, as well as our partner information, ready to be shared out in our request. So let's create our request email. I've created a draft here for a demo. As you can see, it currently only has some request information, the regional recipients have been identified, and I've left room to link our briefing note, as well as additional information from our partner department. So let's start with the lessons learned. All we need to do is drag and drop our document or email from the Harmony sidebar into our draft email. That's what I'm doing now, dragging and dropping the document. And there we are. What Harmony does is create a link to the document with the file name, as you can see, and when I send the email, it will provide view access to those recipients I've identified. For the briefing note itself, we'd like users to be able to edit the document, as well as ensure that they can forward the link to others beyond our initial recipients, and ensure that they are all working from the same version. To do this, we simply right-click the document in the Harmony sidebar and select Share. This brings up the Microsoft 365 sharing window, where we can not only select who we'd like to have access, but also what type of access this link should provide. For our example, we want a link that can be shared on to allow collaboration, as well as allow users to edit the document. You'll see from this confirmation window that I've created a link to this document, which will give anyone ESDC edit access to our briefing note. Now I can copy this link into an email directly, or in our case here, I will add it as a hyperlink to keep our email clean. So we've created a link to both of our documents, giving edit and view access as required, both of which can be forwarded to stakeholders as needed. And so we send off this request. So now the recipient can open the email, and after reviewing the request, they can look at the lessons learned provided, and then begin providing their input directly in the document. And both documents, when clicked, will open in Office 365. Now, perhaps as they begin to formulate their input, they realize they need additional input directly from others within or outside of their branch. Well, by creating links earlier that are available to all of ESDC and providing the correct level of access, this is as simple as forwarding the email or drafting a new email and copy pasting the sharing links, and the required stakeholders will be able to provide input. So some time has passed. The regions have been able to finalize and send us their respective input on our briefing note. Here we have 2 emails confirming input has been added. Since we've always worked in the same file, you can see here that there's no need to send another attachment or version of the document to finalize, only notification is required. To ensure we keep accurate records, we can actually use Harmony to save these regional confirmation of input simply by selecting or dragging multiple emails. So here I'm selecting both by holding Control, and we drag both into our workspace using Harmony, using the Harmony sidebar. And there we are. So a few more days pass, and we, as the coordinating group, have been able to review the input provided by some of the regions and finalize our briefing note. Here we have our final decision that I'll add to my Harmony space as well. Our next step is to discuss our changes with select Service Canada managers. So to begin, let's create a Teams meeting. From this window, you can see Harmony is not only available, but also will maintain the last location I was in, making it very easy to find my files. So here we can simply add a recipients. And we can drag or drop our briefing note to share, as well as our final decision. As we saw earlier, Harmony will create a view-only link to our recipients automatically when we send the email. In addition, by sharing a link using Harmony instead of an attachment, we can actually make updates to the shared files without ever breaking the links, ensuring attendees only receive the correct version. And we send this off. So to summarize how Harmony was able to improve this scenario, by using little more than drag and drop, we were able to store emails and attachments on SharePoint without ever leaving Outlook. We were also able to have our partners collaborate on the same document in the same location without having to worry about access. And lastly, have a reviewing meeting where everybody had access to the same file, all the while knowing people have only the latest version. So thank you very much for watching our Harmony demo today, and please don't hesitate to ask any questions you might have.
All right. So that wraps up the video. We have, as they have Chris on the line with us and Angela, and more than happy to answer any questions that have been put in the chat.
Amazing. Thank you so much to the three of you. That was great. Angela, Alex, and then the demo from Chris. It's not often that we have a demo presented in this kind of format, and I love that we did it recorded because I think it takes away all the stress of the tech issues that can come with presenting a demo in a live setup. So I'm going to flip over to the questions here. We have quite a few that have come in. Feel free, for those of you in the audience, to keep asking your questions. We'll publish them, and like I said at the beginning, we'll get through as many as we can. Always the first question is, are you recording this event? The answer is yes. We are recording it, and we'll make sure that once approved, it's up on our YouTube channel, the Orangutech YouTube channel, that we can share with all of you that attended. Moving over to the questions. So how are permissions managed when communicating across functional areas? Is it an open to all ESDC staff, or is it determined by those in the email thread?
So I'll, Chris, if you're there, I'll let you answer that one because you showed a bit of it in the demo. Maybe you can just elaborate on how those permissions get assigned to the files as part of Harmony.
Absolutely. So essentially, there are two ways to share a file from Harmony, and hopefully everybody can hear me. You can drag and drop. So what that does is it creates a view link, but it only gets shared automatically with those you've identified in your recipient list. So that's a quick and easy way just to show a one-off file for view access, right? If you want to create something more robust for sharing, for editing, that can persist across functional areas, then you can use what I had showed in the demo, which is that M365 sharing dialog window. So there, what you can do is select everybody in the department can have access, certain people or people with existing access to that space, and then you can permit a certain level of access as well, editing or viewing. So hopefully that answers the question. So you do have full control over the type of access and the people who receive it.
Thank you. And a follow-up question to that in the same box was, are there any plans of exploring moving away from email towards Microsoft Teams as the main method of communication and collaboration across ESDC?
So I'll take that one. So we do leverage Team for communication to a certain extent, but back when we first started with the use of Team, there was a limit of, I think it was 3,000 members to a team. So if you imagine we're 35,000 employees and you have one team that would have all the ministerial notes or that kind of stuff, it wouldn't work. So unfortunately, I know Microsoft has been making advances in that side of things, but we kind of at our starting point said that it would only be used for maybe smaller functional, so DG level, potentially even branch-wide communications. But apart from that, email is still, I won't say the preferred, but a common approach. However, and Angela's team was responsible for mailbox sizes before, but with the use of Teams and the chats, those have reduced significantly the traffic of email going back and forth. So, and as an additional note, we've instituted a 15-day retention period on individual chats, so not Teams, but the chats.
Great, thank you for that. Sticking with the Teams conversation, many business communications are taking place on Teams, as we know, in channels and chats outside of emails. Was Teams communication and collaboration a consideration in your initiative? So maybe just build on your response there, Alex.
Yeah, so as I said, it was considered, but what we noticed is that even from a business perspective, and this gets back to what I introduced initially with the processes and the task force, that is where we will advance that part of leveraging Teams and chats. by revisiting these processes that were potentially very heavy on an email, now revisiting them and saying, well, you have forms, you have flow, we have teams, let's leverage those channels as well. So, but even with that in place, we still saw that email is going to be there for a while, at least at ESDC in the way we work.
Great, thank you. Is it possible to save the document independent of the email? From an IM perspective, if it's the attachment that has the business value, we don't want it embedded in an email where indexers can't index it and make it findable on its own.
Chris, I'll let you answer this one.
Sure, absolutely. So I think I went over this a little quickly in the demo, but when you're saving either an attachment or your email, you do have that option. So when you go in and you see an attachment you want, just by clicking the attachment and dragging it to your Harmony sidebar, you can save just the attachment, and therefore you can apply that metadata that applies the lifecycle you're looking for, or you can save the entire email with the attachment as well. So you have that flexibility.
Amazing, thank you. Is there a way to keep the email in the inbox even if it's moved into SharePoint?
I'll take this one as well, I think.
Go ahead.
That's really just as simple as holding the control key. So this is a configuration we set for ESDC, is when you drag the email into the Harmony sidebar, it is sent to your deleted items in Outlook. But you might have a process in your team, right, that wants to retain the email in your inbox. So if you hold the control key, when you drag it to your Harmony sidebar, it gets saved in SharePoint, but a copy stays in your Outlook as well.
And I'll add to that, Chris, that we made a conscious decision in our department from an IM perspective to default it to a move. You could default it to a copy, but we felt this was an opportunity for us to try to get people used to not storing and keeping their mailbox as a repository of information. And we started thinking about ATIP and all that kind of stuff. So from an IM and ATIP and legal perspective, we all felt let's bite the bullet here and set it to move by default. But as you indicated, there is a not, I won't say a workaround, but there is a way to do it without a copy. I think, Angela, I don't know how much we'll advertise that in our change management training, but it might just be a little footnote because we don't want people to take too much advantage of it. But yes, it is there.
Amazing. Are retention labels automatically applied when emails are saved to SharePoint Online with Harmony?
I don't know, Chris, if you have the answer for that one. I'll say it's a little bit out of my knowledge. So yeah, go ahead then. Perfect.
Well, it's not specifically related to our Harmony project, but under Alex, there is a parallel project going on to determine retention policies and how they're automatically applied within SharePoint Online. So the solution will be on SharePoint Online, but if it's attached to the library, then the connector from Harmony, as you drag and drop, will fill in that information, right? So it can happen, but it requires a bit of that foundational IM information to be set up in the environment, which is happening now.
Yeah, and it's independent of Harmony, right? It's Harmony will at least make sure it still gets applied. For the IM folks in the crowd, I'll just say that, you know, we struggled with retention and disposition, and more than happy to have a separate chat on this, but we decided to go with a more risk-based approach to really simplify the rules, going from places where we had maybe 100 rules down to 10. So we can have that as another topic for some other day.
Thanks, both of you. Barry?
Yes, I'll mention as well that we're also implementing a solution with artificial intelligence that could automatically tag the document as it comes out of Harmony into both Teams and SharePoint Online, and that'll be discussed in the February presentation.
Great, thanks for adding that in. What about encrypted emails? Do they remain encrypted when they get brought over to SharePoint?
Chris, I know we tested that one out. Do you have the answer?
Yeah, I wasn't too involved in that testing, but from my understanding is it does persist to SharePoint Online. Angela, you might have more insight on that. Sorry.
It does, however, it's not recommended, right? Because if it's in SharePoint Online, it's being put into a folder that already has the appropriate permission levels. It's in a protected B environment. So probably like many other departments, we have some IT security 101 to go over with our clients on just what it means to encrypt, when, where, how, all that kind of stuff.
So yeah, very good point there, Angela. So the folder structure and the permissions are how we would expect people to manage access, because the encryption that we use at ESDC with the interest is mostly because I'm sending you an email and I want to make sure that you are the only one that opens it, not your admin or some other people that have access to your mailbox. So in moving that email or into Harmony into SharePoint using Harmony, we're saying that the permission model will take care of that, and you shouldn't have to need to store encrypted. And then there's the whole technical side of it, is it can't be indexed, so even searching for it becomes a problem.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of questions. I think the next question is, would external users be able to view or edit the documents, which I know you guys just touched on, but I don't know if anyone wanted to elaborate further.
So I'll say that from our tenant perspective, and this is a departmental decision, in order to maintain the protected B status, we do not allow external users to have access directly to SharePoint. So the only way they get to see documents is as if they're invited externally through their external email as a meeting. But from giving a non-ESDC person access to the document within our tenant, we've disabled that. Maybe just additional context, I think everybody can sympathize that ESDC is responsible for the social security number. So there is definitely a lot of awareness about who can get access to what parts of our tenant. Doesn't mean that someone invited as a guest, they could, but we're kind of in the early days of exploring that side of things.
If I could quickly add on to that for Harmony, if you hold the Alt key as you drag and drop an attachment instead of a view link, it'll give you an attachment. So you can collaborate with external parties, but you'll have to use an attachment in this case.
Great. Thank you. And I'm not sure, I don't think you guys are GC Docs users, but can the Harmony toolbar also include OpenText Enterprise Connect locations from the Connect server?
I can answer that if you, Alex, I can answer that if you'd like. Yeah, super. So I text our CTO to make sure I got an answer. Harmony can see active documents in collaboration mode in SharePoint and links to records stored in GC Docs. So if Harmony pushes a document, such as an email attachment, to SharePoint, then the document can be declared as a record and stored automatically in GC Docs preferred or predefined IAM rules. If you want more detail, we could certainly talk about that, Joel. Great question.
Amazing. Thank you, Barry. So that comes to the end of all of the questions. Thank you to everyone that submitted. Alex, if someone wanted to reach out and get a little bit more information from you guys specifically for their department, is it yourself? Who should they be reaching out to? So
Angela is probably our best contact. She'll make sure to send that request to the proper people inside our IAM team. So please feel free to reach out to Angela, and she'll make sure that the right IAM person is looking at it, whether it's on the more technical side of the implementation or more from an IAM perspective. And of course, we're more than happy to meet with other departments to talk about in more detail about our implementation. I'll say, as Angela stated, we're wrapping up, well, we're starting our pilot in January, we're wrapping it up for the end of March. And I think after that, we'll be in a much better position to kind of elaborate on how we'd scale this up to the entire population of ESDC.
Amazing. Angela, if you wanted to just drop your email maybe into the question box, anyone that's interested can definitely copy that over. Really appreciate it. I was going to say two things. One thing, Orangutech is also a strategic partner with Harmonie, and we have been for many, many years. There's a lot of departments that are using Harmonie in the GoC. So if you are interested, definitely reach out to Angela for the integrated how it's working in the government, but also feel free to respond to the email invite. And it will hit the Orangutech team, and we can definitely get you more information there as well. I appreciate you guys being open to others reaching out. That's really a part of this community that we've built, is how can we bring people together that are working through very similar issues with their own departments and really start that conversation and have that information sharing platform. So thank you so much to all three of you, Alex, Angela, Chris, for coming on and sharing your information and doing such a great presentation and demo for us today, answering some great questions that came in from everyone else that was listening in. As I mentioned at the beginning, we do have our February council meeting already planned, which is for Thursday, the 24th of February. Daniel Sincarche, CTO of Orangutech, will be presenting on M365 architecture. And we will have SSC presenting at the end of March on M365 and change management. We will have emails sent out for all of that, so don't worry about remembering. We'll get that in your inboxes shortly. Thanks again for everyone who jumped in and joined, asked questions. ESDC, thank you. Until next time, you guys, have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye.